Get ready, because what was supposed to be the most epic era of Mortal Kombat turned into a show of frustration, controversy, and decisions that left the community in a full-on emotional fatality. The franchise that revolutionized the industry and shaped generations of players is now facing its most turbulent phase. Rushed releases, absurd microtransactions, incomplete content, and a constant feeling of, this was made to take money, not to honor the legacy. From hype to disappointment, from nostalgia to outrage, MK is living a crisis few ever imagined, and each new announcement seems to turn hope into distrust. If you think you've seen it all, hold on, because this story goes way beyond a disappointing game. In this video, we're going to reveal what's really happening with Mortal Kombat and why fans are saying the essence of the franchise may be at risk. And if you're a Mortal Kombat fan, love keeping up with franchise news, understanding the game lore, curiosities about the movies, and everything that involves the Mortal Kombat universe, make sure to subscribe to the channel. The release of Mortal Kombat 1 arrived surrounded by hype, but it ended up frustrating a large part of the community. Instead of bringing innovation, depth, and the iconic brutality of the franchise, the game turned out to be a limited experience heavily focused on monetization. This excessive emphasis on microtransactions damaged what always made Mortal Kombat so special, turning the title into a disappointment for both casual and veteran players. One of the most criticized points was the fact that the game launched incomplete. For such a massive franchise, the absence of expected modes and features felt absurd. The offline experience, for example, was extremely disappointing, especially for players who prefer to play without relying on constant online connection or competitive matches. In Mortal Kombat 11, we had a huge variety of well-built and fun modes, like the Towers of Time, filled with creative modifiers and exciting rewards, and a massive crypt, practically a mini-world full of references, objectives, and secrets. All of that kept players engaged for hours. In Mortal Kombat 1, however, the potential to deliver something deep and innovative was wasted. The game feels like it was designed primarily with competitive play in mind, leaving casual players completely aside. Even features that could have sparked positive discussions, like the cameo system, which does work and has an interesting execution, weren't enough to hide the rest of the flaws. Not to mention, the mandatory use of cameos frustrated many people. Another serious issue is the lack of variety. Mortal Kombat has always been known for offering multiple modes, different challenges, and a pleasant sense of progression. This time, none of that happened. The game launched feeling like a beta version, with nowhere near enough content to keep players entertained. Modes quickly became repetitive, lacking creativity and any real incentive to continue playing. Invasion mode, which should have been a fresh idea, ended up feeling exhausting and poorly executed. Despite having seasons, exclusive skins, and a promising concept, it failed to deliver fun or a real reason for players to come back. The story mode, historically one of the franchise's strongest pillars since 2011, also fell short. Mortal Kombat usually delivers epic stories, impactful twists, and memorable villains, but this time the plot was shallow and emotionless. The beginning does have interesting moments, especially involving Liu Kang, Johnny Cage, and the setup of the new era. Up until the halfway point, the narrative works, despite some stumbles. The reveal that both alternate endings from MK11 are canon is intriguing, and Shang Tsung being alive could have led to something much bigger. But from that point on, the game loses itself by forcing a poorly developed multiverse, rushed and with no real impact. To begin with, the game launched only for next-gen consoles, leaving the PS4 behind, which already angered a lot of people. And the price? Not cheap at all. The standard edition cost $49.99 in the US, the Mortal Kombat 1 Premium Edition went for $109.99, and the Collector's Edition climbed up to $250. And let's be honest, that Liu Kang statue looked way too simple. The Scorpion mask from MK11 was way better, but the worst came after. Paid fatalities. Something unthinkable in a franchise where fatalities are one of the core pillars of the game's identity. The Halloween fatality, for example, could easily have been unlocked through missions, challenges, or as a free reward. Instead, it was sold for around $10. The community saw this as a blatant attempt to package and sell one of the saga's most iconic features, something that has always been part of the base content and should never have been turned into a standalone DLC. It sparked widespread outrage. On top of that, There are paid skins and cosmetics, which could be reasonable in modern games if many of those items weren't overpriced and lacking in quality. Character customization even got worse compared to MK11, making the situation even more frustrating. In the end, Mortal Kombat 1 disappointed due to a combination of shallow content, repetitive modes, weak storytelling, and aggressive monetization. A game that had everything to define a new era instead became a symbol of how corporate decisions can damage even legendary franchises. But the problems don't stop there. The Khaos Realm expansion, released to complement Mortal Kombat 1's story mode, quickly became one of the most heavily criticized aspects of the game, and not without reason. To start, the price charged for the extra campaign was considered outrageous by the community, especially considering that all the content can be completed in just 3 hours. In dollars, the value wasn't technically that high. It was $50. But the dollar isn't friendly to other countries' economies, which made the price far above what many expected and considered absurd. This only reinforced the global perception that NetherRealm was more focused on financially exploiting players than delivering something truly substantial. The story, in addition to being short, is weak, leaves several important characters out, and loses momentum as it progresses. Not to mention the gender swap of Sector and Cyrax, which caused huge debate and accusations of pushing a woke agenda. Although Kuai Liang's wedding segment is fun and well executed, everything falls apart once the plot leans back into the multiverse cliché, something that many fans were already tired of. Even Havoc, a character with massive potential to be a great villain, ended up disappointing due to shallow writing and lack of real impact. This only strengthens the impression that the development team prioritized aggressive monetization over building a truly memorable experience. What fans have always sought in Mortal Kombat is the essence of the franchise: intense combat, memorable characters, impressive fatalities, and a story that makes sense within that brutal and chaotic universe. Unfortunately, Mortal Kombat 1 failed even to capture the soul of the series. The very concept of Mortal Kombat within the story practically doesn't exist. Instead of a deadly tournament, there's just a symbolic fight to maintain peace between realms. The narrative justification is that Liu Kang rewrote the universe and established an era of harmony. While the premise is understandable, the execution was weak. Players barely have time to understand how this new world works before a sudden twist destroys everything. And that happens within the first 20 minutes of the campaign. This prevents any chance of building emotional engagement. Visually, the game is stunning. That's undeniable. However, many fans notice that despite the graphical polish, the aesthetic doesn't really match the classic identity of Mortal Kombat. Only in the Khaos Realm expansion do we finally see a look that feels more fitting. Destruction, chaos, shadows. But by then, it's set in a parallel universe, further weakening the narrative's impact. This series of decisions makes the game feel unfinished, as if it were rushed out just to be completed later through paid DLC. This excessive monetization model caused widespread frustration. Some improvements did show up afterward, like more interesting tower modes, but by then, the community's trust was already deeply shaken. Instead of becoming a milestone in the franchise's history, Mortal Kombat 1 came to be viewed as a product designed to extract money from its fan base, not a project built with passion. The disappointment grew when reliable insiders began leaking that Kombat Pack 3 had been cancelled, but the breaking point was the massive failure of the Khaos Realm expansion. Shortly after its release, clear signs appeared that the game was going to be abandoned early by the developers. That information was confirmed. After releasing Conan and the T-1000 as the final DLCs, the game was dropped, despite being extremely recent, having launched in 2023. Many players who invested time and money felt betrayed, especially considering how excited they initially were. The future of the series may be in danger if this model continues. The franchise needs to refocus on what always made it iconic: an engaging, violent, stylish, and memorable experience. Only then will it be possible to regain the trust of fans who are gradually stepping away. The community doesn't want a fragmented
dated, incomplete product built around DLC. It wants to feel once again that Mortal Kombat is created with purpose, creativity, and respect for its own identity. And ultimately, that's the real concern. This isn't just a one-time creative mistake, it's a sign that the franchise may be drifting away from what always defined it. If the developers don't change course, Mortal Kombat risks losing its essence entirely.
And it was in this atmosphere of accumulated frustration that the next blow to fan confidence arrived. Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection, a name that promised everything and delivered almost nothing. After the turbulence of Mortal Kombat 1 and its expansion, fans expected the next chapter to be a chance at redemption, and it was in this fragile moment of hope that Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection appeared. Promoted as the grand tribute to the franchise's 30th anniversary. A definitive collection of the classic games that shaped generations. A return to the roots, this time with online play, historical extras, and the promise of an authentic experience. But what should have been a celebration became once again a source of disappointment. And then the question emerged, was Mortal Kombat Legacy Collection rushed out as a commercial patch job after the weak results of Mortal Kombat 1 in 2023? The community was excited. The trailers sold pure nostalgia, and Digital Eclipse, a studio respected for its excellent preservation work, was announced as the developer. It was supposed to be an incredible experience, but reality had other plans. Instead of a grand celebration, what we got felt like a rushed product, unpolished, soulless, and once again showing no sign that the team behind Mortal Kombat understood the fragile moment the franchise was in. It felt like every recent release had the moral obligation to erase the damage of the previous one. Yet Legacy Collection only dug the hole deeper.
And the most ironic part? Digital Eclipse had just come from incredible releases like Atari 50 and the making of Karateka, projects that showed care, love for history, and features designed to preserve, document, and respect gaming's legacy. But with Mortal Kombat, it was as if all of that stayed at the door. And then came the worst part: technical issues. Noticeable input lag, inconsistent game speed, visual glitches, sound problems, and, the most painful of all, an online mode that felt like it only existed to check a box, not to actually work. For a franchise with a competitive community that still respects and actively plays the classic titles, that's almost insulting. Fan communities without million-dollar budgets managed to deliver a more stable and faithful experience than the official release, which launched at a premium price. That alone speaks volumes. The gaming press, of course, treated it like an okay release, but the fans were crystal clear. This is not what Mortal Kombat deserves, and it's not what the public expects in an era where collections and re-releases are becoming cultural preservation events. Once again, the feeling returned that the franchise is being handled with a whatever, it's good enough mentality, as if fans will accept anything just because the MK logo is on the cover, as if nostalgia is an excuse to sell an unfinished product, without passion and without purpose beyond cashing in on the name.
And this matters because Mortal Kombat is not just any franchise. It's a series that shaped pop culture, shocked governments, changed video game laws, created icons, and carried a loyal community for decades. Releasing such a weak collection doesn't just disappoint, it feels almost disrespectful to the brand's own legacy. And all of this raises an important question. Are companies confusing nostalgia with convenience? Re-releasing classic collections has become a profitable business, but many of them fail to meet the expected standard of quality, especially when the community delivers superior alternatives for free, built out of passion rather than fiscal deadlines. Legacy Collection isn't just a product with technical issues, it became a symbol of something bigger. The risk of a historic franchise losing its essence by trying to live off its past without taking care of its present. Mortal Kombat has always stood for boldness, impact, and innovation, but right now it feels trapped between corporate decisions and a lack of creative direction. Fans don't just want to see the legacy again, they want to feel it, with respect, precision, ambition, and authenticity.
Mortal Kombat can rise stronger than ever, but that will only happen when the franchise understands that nostalgia isn't a product, it's a responsibility, and money can't come before quality.
But apparently, they still haven't understood that. The desperation for sales and the push to squeeze as much money as possible from fans surfaced once again. The Elder Gods bundle arrived as an apparently elegant offer, 3 definitive franchise titles packaged together. In practice, however, the community reacted with skepticism and irritation. The central criticism, repeated across multiple platforms, is simple. The bundle offers no real new content and doesn't fix known issues. It simply repackages games and DLC that many players already own, with confusing communication about pricing and value. One of the main complaints is perceived value. Users pointed out that, depending on regional promotions and frequent discounts on the individual titles, buying the game separately during sales can be cheaper than purchasing the bundle. This makes the offer questionable as a deal and reinforces the feeling that it was designed to push digital inventory rather than offer actual benefit to players. Pricing debates appear often on Reddit threads and forums, where fans even shared breakdowns showing the bundle only becomes worth it in very specific situations. The inclusion of Mortal Kombat 1 in the bundle made things worse. MK1 still carries controversy, aggressive monetization, content issues, and mixed reception, and many consider it unwise to bundle it alongside beloved classics. It feels like an attempt to normalize a chapter the community is still criticizing. To many players, pairing MK1 with MK11 and MKX looks like an effort to dilute the game's poor reputation through the marketing power of the bundle.
Many fans made it clear that including Mortal Kombat 9, 2011, in the bundle would have been infinitely more appreciated than adding Mortal Kombat 1, 2023. For the community, MK9 is a modern classic, beloved for its gameplay, campaign, and the impact it had on the series, while MK1 is viewed as a problematic title, marked by excessive monetization, controversial decisions, and a lack of content. Including MK9 would have felt like a true gift to fans, nostalgic, complete, and respectful, instead of the commercial repositioning many felt with MK1. Beyond the price, there are practical complaints. No technical improvements, no exclusive new content, and no solutions for known issues, bugs, balancing, or server support. Players pointed out that the bundle doesn't even fix the problems affecting the current experience. It feels more like a repackaging than a genuine remaster or a truly definitive edition. This reinforces the perception that the publisher prioritizes quick sales rather than investing in quality. The marketing communication was also criticized as confusing. Pricing varied across regions, and promotional messaging was inconsistent. This lack of transparency fuels distrust and gives ammunition to theories that the bundle is a commercial maneuver rather than a gift to the community. And now, rumors are circulating that Warner Bros. May be preparing for a sale, and that the company is trying to squeeze as much profit as possible before any deal is finalized.
Finally, there's a symbolic layer to all of this. The release of the Elder Gods bundle came at a moment when several recent entries in the franchise had already been heavily criticized. That timing reinforced the narrative of reactive, rushed corporate decisions. Instead of signaling a rebuilding of trust, the bundle was viewed by many as a continuation of an ongoing issue. Products released with a focus on numbers, not on winning back the audience. In summary, the complaints center around 3 connected points: the price and the perception of a bad deal, the inclusion of a controversial title, MK1, without addressing its problems, and the lack of technical improvements or exclusive content to justify the package. Together, these criticisms paint a clear picture. Fans aren't opposed to promotions themselves, they're opposed to bundles that feel like commercial shortcuts, with no respect for the player experience or the franchise's legacy. If NetherRealm and Warner want to turn a bundle into a tool for rebuilding trust, the community has already laid out the path: fair and transparent pricing, including proper regional pricing, tangible technical upgrades or exclusive content, and above all, honest communication. Without that, the Elder Gods bundle will remain yet another example of how poorly executed sales strategies only widen the gap between studio and fans, instead of closing it. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to subscribe.